sounds like, in which you did claim that you did, that you knew about the 3 a.m. 911 call before today, and she just kind of wondered why you had not come out with it before today.
Because, well, I've told the FBI everything. So I just don't know if there's something, I think that's something that, like, the 911 calls are so protective of, there must be a reason. So as much as I mistrust law enforcement and all of this, I also don't feel like I should say something that may, I don't know, give a criminal the heads up, or, you know what I'm saying? I feel like information could come out that could lead people not to talk, or for criminals to know what's going on, and that maybe I shouldn't say things like that, because I don't want to I want it solved, and resolved. I don't want to cause a problem. But things that I know that are still happening that I think people can like Dave coming out, right? I think like Dave coming out.
Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're well on this terrific Tuesday. And it is still terrific. It is still terrific. Like you, by the way. You're terrific too. And we are talking about 911 calls. That's right, 911 calls. What you've just heard there at the beginning was from Jessica Reed Krause's Substack. And it was an excerpt from, I'm guessing, a YouTube channel. I'm not 100% sure who it was. If you let me know down below, I'll be certain to pin it. And yeah, so people can see that entire documentary or see whatever. But yeah, Jessica Reed Krause's Substack on House Exhibit. That was where the excerpt come from. Anyway, that was WSU Kim talking about the earlier 911 call. She's saying that she was led to believe that there was a call earlier on in the evening. And I'm sure that she's had a conversation with someone to explain where she got all that information from. She's questioned heavily about why she didn't come out of it sooner. And look, WSU Kim, I'm not going to comment any further on WSU Kim because I just don't know what to make of it all. There's certain things that she talks about that makes full sense and makes sense of things, but anybody can do that. Anybody can talk about this crime and make things make sense. You know, if somebody says something and people have got questions in their mind, and what someone says, you know, sorts out those questions, all of a sudden that person is going to gain trust, because as soon as you start hearing from someone who makes your own thoughts make sense or answers questions that you have, for some reason we automatically trust that person, and that's not necessarily a good thing. And WSU Kim, to me, is she a trustworthy person? I can't tell you that. Do I trust her? From a personal perspective, I don't, and it's because I don't really trust anybody whatsoever. So there's no, you know, it's no disrespect to her. I just don't trust anyone, only myself. So with regards to this, we're saying that there was potentially an earlier call, a 911 call around 3 a.m. What do we know about calls? We know that there was a lot of calls that seemingly went out of that house to Jack DeCure. And, you know, it's you almost think to yourself, if this is true, if there was a 911 call earlier, and then you've got all these calls to Jack DeCure, then what was going on? What was actually happening around this house? And is this situation where there was an earlier 911 call why we haven't heard the actual 911 call? Because it makes you wonder whether there is reference made to the earlier 911 call in the second 911 call. Could you imagine? This could answer exactly why people inside this house didn't call 911, because they already had called 911. A call had already been made. The only danger is now is that this 911 call threw out the entire timeline. So then there's an issue with it, and that's why things seem to be gagged, things seem to be being hidden, because you wonder whether the actions from people within this house threw a spanner in the works with regards to how they wanted this to look. And there's so many things that have pointed towards this crime happening earlier. Kathy Mabbott's original statements didn't pin this murder happening at 4 a.m. and beyond. This was gone back to 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. and so on and so forth. And we've touched on that multiple times, and I don't want to turn this into a ramble, but this is what worries me, is in the Majorjan Alan Kayla case, which is the other Idaho 4 case that is going on. There was a situation where he's obviously gone into this house and murdered this entire family, and it would appear that he had contacted 911 already to explain the situation, and they had done nothing about it. And it weren't until after he exacts his revenge on the family that law enforcement then start to act upon the fact that he had reached out to them to make it look like the process was delayed, but it was being dealt with, when in fact they just started to deal with it to cover their own tracks. So law enforcement will do things to hide where they have not done things. And we know that, you know, no report, hashtag no report, is a bit of a running joke around this, you know, Moscow PD, so on and so forth. But was there an earlier 911 call? At the end of the day, we don't 100% know. When it was mentioned the other day, I can't remember what we was talking about. We was talking about the potential for being a secondary 911 call. And I've hunted high and I've hunted low. I can't find anything absolutely credible, but there is reference to this 3 a.m. 911 call. And you either have to now completely decide that WSU Kim, nothing she says is worth listening to, nothing whatsoever, she's an absolute liar, ignore it, or you've got to consider that elements of what she says is true. But what does it mean if there was an earlier 911 call? Multiple things. It could be that these poor people inside this house, the poor victims, they knew something was going to happen and they'd called 911 for help. Maybe they'd heard something, maybe they'd seen something that looked out of place and it wasn't acted upon. We don't know. Or this had already happened. Something had already started to happen. The downside is we just don't know. And the second, the main 911 call, we haven't heard. And it does make you wonder why you don't hear them. There's so many cases that you hear them, and there doesn't seem to be problems with letting the public hear 911 calls unless there's something that is important or pertinent to a case. And you think to yourself, what would be important or pertinent to the case in this 911 call? What would there be that they don't want the public to grasp, to get hold of? I don't understand. Let me know down below why you think, what is the logical explanation for the 911 call being so hidden, for not being allowed out into the public arena? Is it just because it's so traumatic? But then we have heard countless of those of you who listen to Let's Read or Be Buster, you'll hear the multiple 911 calls that they use within their stories when they're telling about cases. And like I say, they exist, and some of them are truly horrendous. They are literally the last gasps of a victim, and they do allow them out into the public. So to hide them, you have to wonder what they're actually hiding. And are they hiding it because it does indeed make reference to a previous call? Because if there was already a 911 call made, and that is why there was such a delay, someone's head's got to roll. Let me know down below what you think. Next video, we're going to be talking about snitches, by the way, because you know what they say, snitches get stitches. And I'll catch you all in the next one.